Hi, Miss Eglin here. This is a review of The Giver, Chapter 10, summary and quotes. And this might help you if you were a little confused by this chapter, because we're starting to get into some of the things that may be confusing to some people. Jonas does not know what to expect on his first day of training as the new receiver of memory. In this lesson, we'll look at Chapter 10 in Lois Lowry's The Giver as Jonas begins his first day in his new role. First day jitters. Everyone gets nervous their first day on the job, but how much more nervous would you be if you knew nothing about the job description apart from your title? As Chapter 10 in Lois Lowry's The Giver begins, Jonas is in just that situation. Today is the first day training as his community's new receiver of memory, but he still has no idea what that means. Jonas's friend Fiona is also nervous to begin her first day training in the House of the Old, even though she has spent countless volunteer hours there. However, Jonas reminds her things are different now that they are officially 12s. As adults, Jonas and Fiona now begin training for their new roles in the community. Both of them will be working in the House of the Old, a building they have spent plenty of time in. Now, however, Fiona says goodbye to Jonas at the front door while he heads back towards the annex, a small wing attached to the back of the building. The annex seems like any other building, except for one feature: the doors lock. Like many office buildings, Jonas presses a buzzer next to the door and tells the speaker who he is before the door is unlocked for him. Once inside, the attendant working the front desk must push another button to unlock the door to the receiver's room. While this process might seem normal to us readers, Jonas is uncomfortable because no doors in the community were locked ever. None that Jonas knew of anyway. The attendant reassures him that the locks are only to allow the receiver privacy so he can concentrate. Welcome, receiver of memory. The room behind the lock is much like any other home Jonas has experienced, which are also similar to our own homes. The room contains a bed, a table, and desk. While there are some differences in styles and the receiver's furniture is somewhat better quality, the biggest difference in the room is the books. Jonas knows what a book is, of course, but his community is not like ours. There is no library with free access to many books. Standing in his room, Jonas is overwhelmed. Every wall is filled with bookshelves. Jonas cannot imagine what the thousands of pages contained. In his own home, there were necessary reference volumes that each household contained: a dictionary and the thick community volume, which contained descriptions of every office, factory, building, and committee. And the book of rules, of course. Before today, Jonas thought those books were the only kind that existed. Jonas has seen the current receiver once before. Jonas has only seen the current receiver once before, but he recognizes the man sitting in the corner of the room. Perhaps the most striking is that he has the same unusual pale eyes that Jonas himself has. The current receiver seems very old, though he tells Jonas he is not as old as he appears. He explains that though he has years left, he does need what energy he has left to train Jonas. His job now is to pass on all the memories he has inside to Jonas. Understandably, Jonas is a bit confused and thinks the current receiver means he will tell him stories about his childhood. He imagines a scenario similar to a grandparent or other older family relative in our own world. In fact, Jonas already has experience listening to these kinds of stories from his volunteer hours in the House of the Old. However, this is not what the current receiver means. These memories are not his own, but are instead from all time. Before you, before me, before the previous receiver, and generations before him. Try to remember learning for the first time that such things as memories exist, or that there were cities beyond your hometown. Jonas is learning both of these facts for the first time and has trouble wrapping his mind around the idea. Confused, Jonas does not know what you mean when you say the whole world or generations before him. I thought there was only us. I thought there was only now. While Jonas is aware that other communities exist, everything outside of his community is simply called elsewhere. The elder explains there is all that goes beyond, all that is elsewhere, and all that goes back and back and back. These memories were given to him when he was first selected, and here in this room all alone, I re-experience them again and again. It is how wisdom comes, and how we shape our future. Now we will give them to Jonas. Preparing to transmit the first memory. If you have ever tried to go through every single memory you have of your own life, you probably found it was an impossible task. The receiver of memory does not have only his memories to carry, but all memories. Trying to explain this concept, however, is difficult. So is trying to explain how he is weighted down by them, meaning the memories. Attempting to describe what he means, the man likens his feelings to riding on a sled. At first, the speed and cold air is thrilling. But if you're going through deep snow, eventually the snow accumulates, builds up on the runners, and you slow. You have to push hard to keep going. The man is in the middle of his comparison before he realizes his description means nothing to Jonas. This realization, though, helps him decide where to begin training. Jonas follows the man's instructions and lies down on the bed after taking off his shirt. He watches as the man walks over to the room's speaker. Just like the annex itself, there is almost nothing remarkable about the speaker. The same kind is present in every house in the community. There is one huge difference, though. This speaker has an off switch. Jonas is amazed by this power to turn the speaker off, as he was by the locks on the doors. Jonas is as amazed. Finally, the man is ready. He sits down next to the bed while reassuring Jonas he will not be causing him pain. Despite his nerves, Jonas takes advantage of the newly granted permission to ask questions and asks what will happen. The man responds, I am going to transmit the memory of snow, before placing his hands on the boy's back. Lesson summary. Jonas is understandably nervous about beginning his training in the annex, part of the House of the Old. He is overwhelmed by locking doors, speakers that have an off switch, and shelves of books. Although he has experience listening to the memories of the old, he has no understanding of anything that does not happen inside his own community. Even though he knows elsewhere exists, he does not actually know what it means. While trying to explain how overbearing the memories can be using a sledding example, the giver realizes that Jonas doesn't know what he's talking about. Therefore, he gives Jonas his first lesson, a memory of snow. Okay, so here's a little picture. The first memory will be snow, of snow, and here's the bookshelves filling the room. So in this chapter, that part where the giver's talking about back and back and back and those generations, when Jonas responds, I don't know what you mean. I thought there was only here. I thought there was only now. That shows us there's no history. Okay, so they don't learn any history or anything really beyond their own area and the possibly the community surrounding. Okay, so that is a very important statement because, you know, they don't know anything about the past. And we don't know how these memories are going to get transmitted. Okay, so pretty important chapter, but more is to come. So thanks for listening. Hope this helped.